Welcome to Biology in Minutes. Today we'll be talking about reproductive barriers. The biological species concept explains what a species is. A species is a group of populations whose members can interbreed and produce viable, fertile offspring. For example, humans are a species because they can reproduce and produce fertile offspring. Now let's talk about reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation are biological factors that impede reproduction and the creation of viable offspring. There are two types of reproductive isolation: prezygotic and postzygotic. Prezygotic are factors that hinder fertilization. Postzygotic factors are factors that occur after fertilization. It prevents the zygote, which is the fertilized cell, from developing into a viable adult. There are 5 types of prezygotic factors. The first one is habitat isolation. In habitat isolation, species from different habitats will not encounter each other. For example, a species that live on water will not encounter a species that live on land. Thus, they won't reproduce with each other, which makes them two different species. The second type is temporal isolation. Species breed during different times of the day. As a result, they cannot mix their gametes and fertilize. Number 3 is behavioral isolation. In behavioral isolation, species have different courtship rituals, and as a result, they cannot mate with each other. In this picture here, you see that one species does not recognize the other because they have different behaviors. The next type is mechanical isolation. Species have different morphological differences. Mating is attempted but fails. In this picture here, you see that these two different animals have different designs. The last type of prezygotic barrier is gametic isolation. In gametic isolation, different species have gametes that cannot fertilize with each other. As a result, they cannot fertilize with each other and cannot be considered the same species. Now let's talk about postzygotic barriers. There are 3 different types of postzygotic barriers. The first one is reduced hybrid viability. In this case, fertilization actually happens, and the hybrid's development and survival is limited. For example, some salamander species will fail to develop and survive because its parents are different species. The second type of postzygotic barrier is reduced hybrid fertility. In this case, fertilization happens and the hybrid is able to grow and survive. However, they are sterile. For example, a mule. A mule is a mix between a donkey and a horse. If the mule is able to grow, it cannot reproduce. The last type of postzygotic barrier is hybrid breakdown. In this case, first generation hybrids are viable and fertile, but future generations are not. Thanks for watching.